Welcome to the Go Slow to Go Fast lifestyle podcast, where we explore how slowing down creates stronger leadership, better health, and a more intentional life. Today's guest brings a beautiful blend of strategy and soul. After 20 years in corporate business management and running her own successful virtual assistant business, she felt called to help others build flexible, fulfilling careers of their own. Based on the Gold Coast of Australia and working with clients worldwide, she now shares her signature VA way, combining practical systems with powerful mindset tools. As a certified NLP master coach, breath and sound coach, and therapeutic hypnotherapist, she coaches from both the head and the heart, helping others move past professional roadblocks and step into their aligned success. This is a conversation about reinvention, resilience, and building a career that supports the life you truly want. Let's dive in. Well, Sasha, I want to say I am just so excited to have you on the Go Slow to Go Fast lifestyle podcast. Thank you for agreeing to come on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yes. How are you going slow to go fast these days? Do you mind sharing your personal practices?
Yeah. So what I've realized is that if we sit in the hustle and bustle of life, that we just seem to be on this hamster wheel. We actually don't progress forward. We're just kind of in this state of busyness. And what I've learned in my business journey is very much a concept of going slow will actually help you speed up. So, even when we travel, the business actually does the, most revenue when we travel because I actually just stop and be present and just enjoy. And then even when sometimes things just all get a bit too much, is actually just slowing down, throwing some meditation in for the day. There's so much power in actually getting out of the busyness and, being able to quantum leap or to make big changes in the business. You can just make those decisions from such clarity in a really place of being and, not kind of just making a decision on a whim either.
Yeah. And I've found myself also succeeding if I actually just take a break from technology and I don't look at my posts or my podcast stuff and just go offline for a day or two. I actually have more buy-in, more interest. I get when I come back, it seems like more people want to know more. So it's just interesting. It's kind of counterintuitive, but it makes sense, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. A lot of people
Yeah.
think that we need to be in the hustle and bustle of business to be successful, and it's the opposite.
Yeah. And I think our energy is better. So we're attracting more of what we want, right?
Exactly right.
Yeah. So you are many things to many women, busy women out there. And so I'd love for you just to kind of walk our viewers and listeners through kind of your background and how you came to be where you are now.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I started my business journey about 5 years ago. I was a casualty of COVID. I spent 25 years in hospitality and events, predominantly in hotels. We were probably the most hit industry through COVID. We were stood down. The hotel that I was working in at the time became the first quarantine hotel because we housed all of our international quarantine guests in hotels. So 25 years, literally nothing. It took me a year of in and out of random jobs, making sure that I still had income coming in. And then I discovered the world of virtual assisting, and somebody that I knew from the hotel industry told me about it. And I just dove in. And I dove in because I'd always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always wanted that time flexibility. I got to a point in my life where I didn't want to take no, you can't go on holidays. No, you can't do this. And do you know what? I started it on a complete whim. I was just like, it's just going to be a side hustle. I'm just going to get some income, see what happens. And it kind of just took off really quickly. I got my first client in 24 hours. I then resigned my full-time job in my first week, and I was fully booked within 3 weeks. So that kind of started my journey as an entrepreneur and running my own virtual assistant business. That business itself grew to multi-six figures in under 2 years. And only 4 months into that virtual assisting journey, I really discovered that this was a beautiful life that other women can choose to live as well. We're all craving that flexibility, having more time with kids at home. And I just wanted to share it. So I started teaching other people how to start their own business, not even realizing that what I was doing was business coaching. And then once I worked out that this is actually a business on its own, then I kind of started to pivot more to that. And we sort of started to wind down a lot of the clientele in the virtual assistant business. And then what kind of happened on my entrepreneurial journey, which has kind of led to all of the different modalities that I have now is I stepped into a room that I thought was business coaching because I was just like, I was kind of hitting that 8K a month, 10K a month full, ceiling. And I was just like, well, I don't know what to do from here. They don't teach you this sort of stuff in high school. So I went into a room to learn how to run my business better. But what I actually learned was how to hold myself, I guess, in a different light, how to hold myself to a different standard. And it was actually neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP. So I got my qualifications as an NLP coach. Then I grew on to become an NLP master coach. And really, it gave me a lot of the knowledge and the resources to be able to support women to actually change, to actually go through an identity shift when fear is coming up, the fear of rejection, the fear around money, the fear around valuing themselves, and even just all those limiting beliefs that we get as children is how can we reframe those? So part of that program was my hypnotherapy certifications. And then in the last couple of years, I've added some modalities, so breathwork and sound healing into those. And now I also certify people in breathwork and sound as well. So very diverse journey, but that was kind of something that really kind of tapped in and really kind of contemplate me to that next level as an entrepreneur and being able to support my clients to actually make those identity shifts as well.
I mean, it's just, there's so many things I want to unpack here because I find it interesting that you went this way and then that way and this way. But I see it, some people might see it's kind of not making sense. I see it making sense because you want to help women who are balancing so many plates. So it makes sense to go at it from different directions, thinking that that neural linguistic area would be huge as a support system. And then, of course, we need breath work. We all do. And we don't think about it, how essential it is to really breathe and not just let your body take over. Really wind down and think about your breathing. If the number one takeaway, if anybody's listening to this, when you are stressed, that can be one thing to self-regulate your nervous system, right? But I'm talking to an expert right now. So I want to get more from you as far as your thinking. And, why do you think you were called away from this virtual space of helping, and doing it very well, successfully in that area? And then all of a sudden after COVID and, things progressed into this area, do you see that there's a big pattern for the need out there changing?
Yeah, I think because I saw the internal shift in myself, like I changed so much as a person, the way that I showed up, the way that I lived my life. And I was just like, actually life gets to be absolutely incredible. And I think, unless we know that, we can change, I think there's a lot of people out there, we call them NPCs, they're non-playing characters. They're just like, well, this is just my life. If I guess this is as good as it gets. And I was just like, no, life gets to be incredible. Like everything is a choice. And I think that's really where the work was. Whilst the virtual assistant business was so successful, I was just like, this isn't the work that lights me up anymore. Is actually helping women. And, I work with a few men as well to actually change and to, be able to turn around their money status, be able to turn around like their location, where they are, change their quality of life for their family. I think that's where the impact was for me. And that's was just like, this is my true calling. This is my mission. And it's so much more rewarding than exchanging time for money in a service-based business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm talking to more and more women these days about how, I feel like I've made a conscious choice to get out of that hustle culture. And like you said, I put family first and I'm working from home now. Not everybody can do that. But I think if you are going to a job every day that's not lighting you up and you want to make a change, then you have to think about the next steps to get there. And it could be a 5-year plan. It could be a 3-year plan. It could be 6 months from now, or it could be next week. You could turn in or 2 weeks notice, whatever. Wherever you are in your journey to find what lights you up, what would you say is something that we all need to hear just to kind of get us to think about, making that change? What would be the next step that we need to do once we start thinking about that?
I think it's to realize that any significant change needs time and needs work. And there is a big thing, it's probably been around for decades, but everybody wants that magic pill. They all want to become rich overnight. They all want to lose the weight overnight. But actually, if we just stick at something and know that we can actually change the quality of life at some point, we will get there. And I think a lot of people like, it's not working. It's too hard. I'm going to retract back to my old self. And then they're just stuck in that vicious cycle. Whereas if you stay committed to what you actually want, you will get there. And then interestingly enough, the goalpost just even changes even more. But you've got a lot of people that like start at the year, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to go, but the goal is just too big that they see it as so unachievable. And, when you mentioned, a 5-year plan or even more, that's scary for people. And they're just like, it's too long. I don't want to wait. But then they retract back to the opposite. And then they're so much further away from it. So it's just like, if you want something that bad, you have to be committed and show up every day to get there. And that's the problem. Whereas everyone just wants the magic pill and to get there tomorrow. And that's not life.
Definitely think about a plan. But then, once you have an idea of what you want to do, or you think you know what you don't want to do, maybe more importantly, then what comes next? Somebody that wants to make a major shift, is it doable? Is it something that they can learn or, I guess, recreate their life? Is it possible?
I like to say that everything is figure outable. So you might just not see the forest through the trees. So go and find somebody that has done what you're wanting to do. Go onto Facebook groups and connect with other women that have potentially done it. And the thing is, there is no difference between any of us. We're all human. We're all walking this earth together. There's no difference between you, me, any other woman. And because of potentially the way that we've been brought up or society, and, sometimes we're just like, oh, there's no way I could do that. Why not? Rather than having a scarcity mindset of being like, well, they're just different. Like, there's no such thing as superhuman. I didn't just get lucky. I just wanted something so damn much. And then if we look at other women that have done what we want to do, just reframe it in your mind to be like, well, if they can do it, why can't I? And actually hold that belief for yourself, because you can actually change, and it's all an intentional choice. Make a decision, but you don't have to figure it out alone. There's plenty of other women out there, other men that are more than happy to take your hand, guide you along, or show you where you can find the resources to work it out for yourself.
Yes, that's good advice. That's a good point that, you can figure everything out. You just have to figure out where you want to start. And, some people go to YouTube and start watching videos to figure out a skill. Some people start listening to podcasts and try to figure out what they can do next, who they admire, who they want to aspire to be. Not that I want to be a homemaker and make a living doing what Martha Stewart did, but she started her business at 50. So,
Yeah.
And she's, a household name, at least in the US. And I'm sure she's famous all over for things that she's done over the years. So, there's a good place to start is now.
Yeah. And you're never too late. If
Right.
you're 50, average life expectancy is getting longer and longer. The chances are you'll probably live to about 85. So why don't you
Mm-hmm.
just start now? You might have a really successful, thriving business by the age of 55 and be able to get some of that time freedom back, rather than, oh no, that can't possibly. I hear it all the time. It's just like, just start.
Yes. In fact, I was speaking with a woman who's in her 80s and she has an online business and she has had several jobs in her lifetime. The first was she was a nun. She was in a convent and then she reinvented and reinvented and reinvented. It's like Madonna, we can all reinvent ourselves.
Absolutely. It's never too
Yeah.
late.
No. So, thinking about all of the services that you offer clients, I'm interested to know more about how sound healing can benefit clients that are going through maybe a change or stress or just life events or just life in general.
So, with sound, yes, it very much is a spiritual practice, but it is actually combined a lot with science as well, same as breath work. So, a lot of people do see it as very woo woo, but if you actually tap into the history of it and where it's originated, it's very much science. So, sound actually reaches what words cannot. So, if you talk about the power of meditation and actually rewiring our unconscious, sound goes deeper than that, because sound goes far back into your unconscious that the words cannot reach. As well as, if you think about the frequency of sound and sound waves, they can actually communicate with water in a scientific sense. And what's our body made up of? Lots and lots of water. So it is a really great tool for self-regulating, but also in healing senses as well.
That is, I've always been interested in the power of sound.
So yeah, they talk about the measurement is hertz. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there is science. Science backs this up. And it's one way that you can work on your wellness. It's a therapy. strategy, would you say?
Absolutely. And, whilst now in modern society, it's very much, larger events, doing sound by the ocean, over in Bali, they've got pyramids with beautiful sounds, but it's actually been around for decades and decades. I'd say, more than, centuries. It's just
Hmm.
kind of been brought into the modern day world, especially with breath work, with a lot more people turning to more wellness and holistic practices rather than
Hmm.
our typical medicine in hospitals and things like that. Yeah, definitely, a lot of people have had a lot of success in terms of healing things inside the body. But in terms of just even mindfulness and regulating the nervous system, it's really powerful.
Hmm. I can see that. And, with hypnotherapy, can you talk a little bit about how that could be beneficial for somebody either going through a change or, you know, they might need to maybe break a habit that they can't shake now without, trying a different strategy?
Yeah. So hypnosis is very much rewiring your unconscious. So really changing the way that we think and believe about certain things. And the thing is, as much as, if we talk about in as we're growing up, a lot of our thoughts and our beliefs are created over time. We actually can undo them and change those beliefs over time as well. So what happens in hypnosis is the person actually has to want to change for starters, because all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. So if you go into a hypnosis session and you were just like, I don't believe this. This isn't going to work. I'm not going to listen. You're actually blocking those pathways and actually it's not going to work. So hypnosis only works if you do, because you actually have to change. And they even say that the best hypnosis is your own hypnosis. So, as a hypnotherapist, recording my own hypnosis and actually playing that, because your unconscious believes yourself, and it's like hearing itself say it and over again, it will start to believe it even more. So a lot of hypnotherapists will actually retrain their mind in the most important time of night, where you're going through those beta and those theta waves as you're going to sleep. And a lot of them actually do it every single night. So when I go to sleep, I actually rewire my conscious every single night as I go to sleep, so that you wake up with a very different view. If you've had a negative day, I'll go through like a negative release hypnotherapy as I'm actually going to sleep, and that will actually really change the state that you wake up in. So you kind of can use those when you're in the different brainwave patterns to retrain it to think about in a different way. So you might wake up the next day and be like, well, that's actually not a problem anymore. So, it can
Mm,
be really powerful in terms of changing your belief system as well as mindfulness practices as well.
that really tracks with. I was watching a podcast, like a YouTube version of a video podcast with, it was either, I can't remember which, it's either Bob Costa or Art Garmston, because I took some cognitive coaching coursework probably 15 years ago with their research. And one of them was talking to the host about this very thing. He was saying, because he's a psychologist practice, and he was saying that it's your subconscious and your ego are, basically going back and forth. And so when you go to sleep, when you start going into those theta, in that theta state, right before you fall asleep, is when you can start telling yourself to forget all the ego. And then your subconscious takes over, like you were just saying. And he was saying that you can rewire and reteach and rethink what's blocking you, because it's just this constant, almost like a movie reel that's in your head,
Mhm, mhm.
either from family, ancestors, your upbringing, whatever it is. And so when you go to sleep, your subconscious takes over. And when you wake up, your ego takes over. And he's like, it's just a constant battle back and forth.
Yeah. I think it's such a
That's
powerful
interesting.
modality, and you get to change anything. A lot of my friends like, why does this not bother you? Why are you not angry, or why are you not sad? I'm just like, do you know what? I don't actually have any ill feeling towards this, because I'm so regulated. And I'm just like, why would
Hmm.
I take up the negativity of space in my day when there's so many other abundant things that I can spend my time on and enjoy? Because it actually takes more
Yeah.
effort to be angry or stressed or sad at something, but actually it happened. I
Yeah.
can't control it. It's actually an intentional choice to react a certain way to different situations. So
Hmm.
hypnosis plays a really powerful effect on that.
So you're saying that you've actually recorded yourself and you listen to like positive affirmations or just
Sometimes it's
whatever you want to work on?
sometimes it's an
Okay.
affirmation, sometimes it's more of a release. And I mix it up as well.
Hmm.
I don't always listen to my own. I
Hmm.
haven't recorded every hypnosis that I have a script for. And sometimes it's
Yeah.
very intuitive. It's just like, how am I feeling today? And I check in with myself before I go to sleep. And I'm just like, do you know what? I feel really good. What are we going to work on tonight in our subconscious? So if I don't have anything in my library of recorded ones, then I'll just go to YouTube to any of there's a couple that I pick from. Just, you've got to have the voice that kind of lands for you. Then I'll just put
Mm-hmm.
it on and I'll either loop it if it's not long enough, or if I'll put it on once it's finished to stop, because you definitely don't want those ads creeping in at 3
I
a.m., waking
know.
you up or anything
That's
like that. So
no,
make
that
sure
would
you've got
not
this.
work.
Make sure you've got the settings on point to just shut down the app when you finish. But no, I can
Yes.
honestly say every single night before I go to sleep, there's always something that's retraining.
Wow. Okay. And I'm sure there's gear to go along with that because it's, like you have headphones and ear pods. Like, how do you sleep with something in your ears? Do you have like a band or,
I actually don't. They do say that you get more benefit,
huh?
but it's more of a comfort thing. If I slept
Yeah.
with headphones, then they'd come out. So no, I just have
Mm-hmm.
I have my iPhone next to my bed, and I just have it of a sound quality that's not too
Mm-hmm.
loud, but also not soft enough, so I can
Yeah.
actually hear it. So that's my choice. I know that some people sleep with headphones, but I don't.
Yeah. I've seen these headbands that have like a headphone kind of a possibility that are more comfortable, but I haven't tried that yet. But yeah, something to think about. I hadn't thought about that at all. Okay. So, and that's you're retraining your conscious mind, right? When you do that,
You're
or is it your
unconscious.
subconscious? Your unconscious. Okay.
Unconscious.
Okay. Interesting. So it's your unconscious mind that is causing the havoc that we
Yeah.
deal with. That like negative talk.
Yeah, and generally, the other thing I say to people is really tap in and be like, do I actually believe that? Or is it just something that I've heard? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's those thoughts that we create. And it's more like tuning into a feeling into our body. And a lot of times, even values and religion and, the way that we decide on things, like if you think about, I don't know what it's like where you are, but like here in terms of like vaccinations, in terms of whether you take your kids to a private school, a public school, like a lot of those values and things like that have stemmed from what we've heard over time or what we've been told. We were told all these crazy things as kids, like money doesn't grow on trees and you have to work hard for your money. And like there's all these beliefs that
Yes.
actually just like, do you know what? I don't believe that anymore. I don't
Mm-hmm.
believe that you have to work all day, all night to be successful.
Right. Right.
And if you speak to the billionaires, if you had a conversation with Elon Musk, he would actually say, "I actually believe that money grows on trees. You just have to work it out." So
Yeah. Yeah.
all of those things craft all of these beliefs in our mind. But I really just
Mm-hmm.
encourage people that are listening is, are they your own thoughts? And what have you got to back that? Where's the logic? Where is the logic? Because I can tell you the people that are the happiest in the world are also the richest in the world, but they don't work 24/7.
No. They have a lot of space in their
They have
day.
a
They have a
lot of
lot of time.
space. Yep,
Mm-hmm. Because
yep.
they value the time.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
value the time, whereas, a lot of the other things that you talk like money is greedy and all of those negative things around money, which has made so many of us just actually play small in life, and you don't have to.
Yeah. And what is that about? I mean, I guess it's obviously an ancestral, belief that's been passed down many, many years, many
Many.
generations that we had to work hard. And yes, back in the day we did. We had to wash clothes by hand and we had to chop wood. We don't have to do that anymore. So
Yeah.
why do we think we have to do that in our,
It's
you know,
very
current
different
times?
time. I mean,
Yeah.
my grandparents went through the war and the husbands went off to war, and it's not like that. We have technology, we have AI, we can leverage all of that. It's a very different world. And I think there's a lot of generational stuff that will pass down. And if we continue that habit, it will continue to pass down. But also the world around us is changing. So the beliefs should change with the world around us as well. And it doesn't.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And thinking of that, I think wellness practices sometimes get a bad rap, but I think more and more people are realizing when I take time for myself, I feel better. So how about I do that more often so I can feel better more often? And it's not, we shouldn't feel guilty for doing that, but I think many probably do still.
They
And
do.
that's a belief that we've got to let go of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always you put everybody else first. Even when you're writing greeting cards, I was always taught to put yourself last in a greeting card. And like that just sets the tone for everything else.
Mm,
And what I've learned, and especially like as a mom, we're like, oh, you got to put your kids first. But actually, you have to put yourself first so that you can
you do.
show up for them in the best light. And that's been the
Hmm.
biggest learning because we've always said, oh, I'll just do that for them. I'll do that for them. But it makes you feel not great. That's where the people pleasing habits come from as well. So yeah, definitely a huge,
Yes.
big retrain on put your first self first every single time.
Yes. And it's, self care is not selfish and we have to get past that. But, I think, like you said, it's just something that you have to think about maybe doing every night before you go to bed. Revisit, how do I feel? And how did I end of
Yeah,
the day go? And what do I want to do differently tomorrow? Yeah.
exactly.
So besides your, kind of night routine, is there anything else that you would suggest or that you offer clients that might work with the hypnotherapy therapy?
Yeah, so we do some hypnotherapy as part of our corporate training. I mean, most of what I train is business. And though all of these modalities have been super helpful with me leveling up in business. So I do give activations and hypnosis recordings to my clients. We also have I guess you'd say, a wellness day as part of our coaching. So every Friday, they can jump on our Facebook group and they get an activation or a hypnotherapy, depending upon what we choose on the day. We also do sound healing as well. So what's great about what I do is I can put on a sound healing through Facebook for my clients, but actually it's self-healing as well. So it's about picking up what's happening. But what I think it's really great because I get to enjoy and my body gets to take the healings from the bowls, but also I get to project that to my clients as well. So it's kind of a two-pronged thing as well. I get to have, a Friday, which is just a really mindfulness day, and at the same time get to share the gift with my clients as well and help them kind of self-regulate at the same time.
That's nice. And I hope to see that more and more in workspaces moving forward. I think that would be great. I don't know how many, I mean, you hear about that at Google and Apple maybe going on. But, I just spoke to a woman the other day who used to work for Apple, and she's in engineering and she's working with engineers, women who are also engineers mostly. And she said there seems to be an uptick in this 996 mentality, which I hadn't heard of, but it's basically the hustle culture of grinding at work and basically working from 9 to 6 o'clock at night, 6 days a week. And she's seeing
Mm,
that uptick where employers are expecting that. And I think we got away from that during the pandemic, which was nice in a way, even though I think more people became accessible online and we were on a lot of online calls and doing work that way. It's starting to swing back where people really have to set up those boundaries. Do you talk about boundaries in the workspace with any of your clients?
absolutely. Boundaries is everything. And I think what happens is when they switch from an employee over to a business owner, is they think that they have to have all of that same readily available. Or I'm going to commit to a client that I'm going to work for them 9 to 12. And I'm just like, no, like you're running a business here. You agree to do the work and the work gets done by the deadline, but they don't get to dictate how you run your business or the times that you do. So it's really important. If a client messages you at 7 o'clock at night, you do not need to reply. And also, you don't need to stop immediately and do the task. You could just be like, it's on the list. Great, I'm going to get it done by the deadline, or even just saying, well, when is that deadline? And I think that's a really important thing. Is just like if you're actually crafting a business, craft it around you. And I talk about a me first concept. Your business needs to be me first. So that's why we're in business. We're in business to help people, obviously, but you're also in business because there's some sort of drive that you have to create this life that you have. So if you start this business and you are hustling every single day to try and make it successful, how are you ever going to get out of that loop? So I teach them in the beginning to be like, well, what does the week look like for you? Also, I think, again, society kind of tells us that we have to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. It's like, who created that? So I work every day, and a lot of people on the outside, they're just like, why do you work every day? That's exhausting. I'm like, no, because I work when my energy levels are high. And some days I don't have any energy levels and I choose to go do something else. But if I can do a couple of hours in the morning and then do whatever I want to do for the rest of the day, that's great. And if I want to get up early on a Saturday and work, whereas society tells people that you shouldn't work on a Saturday. And I've had people when I've come back from Bali, like, oh, I'm really sorry you had to work on a holiday. And you're like, I'm not. I get to work on my holiday. That's an opportunity that one, I still get to earn money while I'm traveling the world. Two, I get to be in these beautiful places and have experiences. So I really kind of share that concept with my client to be like, you don't have to set your business up how society tells us. Like you get to decide what that looks like.
Yeah, I think that's the freedom. If you can create a life where you have the freedom to choose what works for you, that's ideal.
Yeah. Yep. It's really just whatever that looks like. Whereas We're just so in tune to that hustle culture, and you have to fit your hours in here, and that doesn't serve anyone. It doesn't work for everybody either because we're all different.
No. And, the more I try to push myself past a certain time in the day, and my life is very different than it was a year ago. A year ago, I was in a school. I was working very early in the morning and very late till very late at night. And it's just different being in schools all the time, on. Everybody can come at you, but you've got to set boundaries in whatever profession you're in,
Mhm.
whatever, you're doing with your schedule. The more you put in those boundaries, the more room you have to think and create and just do more of what you want to do. Like you said, if you wanted to work on a Saturday, then you can work on a Saturday and it's okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
Interesting. Knowing that you're working with business leaders and entrepreneurs who are either starting a new business or wanting to scale, maybe up their levels of success. Do you have any, advice for anybody out there right now who's wanting to start a business or who has just started a business and maybe they feel like it's just not coming together and I don't know what I'm doing? What advice would you have for those folks out there listening and watching?
So probably two things. The first thing is to ask for help. You don't have to walk the entrepreneurial journey on your own, that there are other people out there that have done what you need to do. Join community groups, go to networking events. Business is so much more fun if you've got some business friends that you can go with. And then I guess, secondly, it's kind of one thing that I tell a lot of clients is not that you have to work 24/7, but if you have a desire of a type of life, you still need to put in the groundwork to create that. So a lot of people start in their first year business like, I thought it would be easy. I didn't think I'd have to work as much, and work out what that as much is without burning out and working too much. But there is a level of, if you want this, you do have to put in the effort. You do have to go out there and market yourself. You do have to show up on social media. And if you're not going and talking to people, they're not going to come and find you. And I think that's the biggest mistake that people make. They see everyone being successful and they're like, oh, this is just going to happen for me. But they don't work out how to actually run the business and to kind of fill in the gaps. And they're just like, oh, I thought I'd just be able to travel like this girl and, and follow that. It's just like, did the work to create that freedom and that flexibility. So being mindful of that, and you have to go and find the clients, especially this day and age with social media and the noise out there. If you don't go to your clients, they're not going to know that you exist. So be okay with putting in the work so that you can create the flexibility and freedom that you like at some point, because it will happen. You just have to do the groundwork together.
Do you have any advice as far as maybe how much time or, I guess effort one, that wants to have a digital footprint out there, wants to attract clients from different spaces? Do you have like a percentage of time that you should spend on the socials versus doing face-to-face networking? Is there any kind of guidance that you might offer?
Yeah, I mean, face-to-face networking is gold because you could go to an hour event and you can meet 30 people. So if you're talking about being smart with your time, great, go and do that. Plus, it's more fun, especially if you work from home. How nice is it to, put a face of makeup on and put some nice clothes on and leave the house for a change? That's fun. But yeah, in terms of time, it's really valuable. Like, I've got an event tomorrow. There's 16 other people going. I only know 2 of them. So I'm going to come out knowing another 12 to 14 people. What a great way to spend a couple of hours.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I get to go for a nice drive. They have good food and coffee. In terms of other conversations, I generally say to my clients, if you're not showing up every single day in your business, then people don't know that you exist. So it's more about not saying you have to hustle every day. It's like, work out what your energy allows. But again, to remember, you're running a business. So if you don't show up every single day and tell people that you're open and you're here, they're not going to buy. And I always use the retail outlet kind of as an example. If you go into a retail shop, 9 times out of 10, the shopkeeper, retail assistant, they call them now, will come to you and greet you. Hi, how are you? This is what specials we have on today. So they're constantly always selling, and there's always so much fear I feel around females that they're like, oh, I don't want to show up and feel salesy every single day. It's just like, but you're running a business. And I think they put so much pressure on the money concept about it, but it's just like, take the money concept away and think about the impact that you're having rather than, oh, I don't want to feel salesy. Well, just don't. Show up and change someone's life today. Make an impact today. And if you're not doing it every single day, that's another day that goes by that somebody doesn't know you exist. So I always say, show up every single day. At least have one conversation a day. However, if you have big goals and big dreams and you're like talking, okay, well, I'm at 10K a month and I want 50K a month, you might actually have to have 5 new conversations a day to get there. So all of the goals that we put in place need to be realistic based upon the effort that we put in and being mindful of that. Because what happens is a lot of women are like, okay, well, I want to scale my business this year, but then they don't work out what the activity means that then correlates to the direct revenue. And they get disappointed. They're like, oh, I thought I was going to make 50K. Well, what did you actually do in terms of business activity to get there? And then they're like, oh, okay. So there's a missing piece there. It's a
Mm-hmm.
missing piece in terms
Yes.
of volume and effort to be able to get those results.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think, some of us getting into, starting our own business may not have gone to business school or, we're just kind of figuring out, the stuff that's in the middle. Like we have an idea and we kind of have an idea of what we want the end goal to be, but we got to figure out what the middle steps are. So it's always kind of good to hear other business women out there, coaches kind of talking through what that looks like, the nuts and
Yeah.
bolts.
And in transparency, I didn't know how to run a business either. I just worked it out. I just invested in the coaches that showed me the way. I didn't go to business school. I actually dropped out of school. I didn't finish it. So, if that can inspire other people is you could just get to work it
Hmm.
out.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, everything is figure outable. I think, Maria Forleo has a podcast about that and she has a book. And it's true. There's lots of women out there doing what you want to do. And I think there's room at the table for everybody. I know there is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always say in Australia, there's 2.6 million business owners that are looking for support, as well as every single day there is another new business registered. There is no saturation. There is room for anybody. You just need to find out where you fit. Everybody can have the chance.
Yeah. It's just getting yourself out there so people know who you are. Yeah. Okay. So definitely thinking about getting out and connecting. I think I watch a lot of podcasts, as you can tell. I was watching Jay Shetty the other day talking to a woman who said, just buy the most expensive gym membership you can and network. Just meet people. And I was
Great
like, I don't want to
advice.
do that. But I'll think of something else along those lines. Maybe go into a really expensive restaurant and connect with people in the restroom.
Yeah.
There's lots of ways you can do that. So you just got to get yourself out there.
Yeah. Just be around the right people or find the right people
Hmm.
and hang out with them. They say that you are a reflection of the 6 people that you hang around. So if you're hanging around with
Yeah.
really depressing people that are sitting there being like, oh, well, this is life, it sucks, and oh, that I can never do anything else, is go and find the other people that are like, actually, no, we're not standing for mediocre. We're striving for this and we get to work this all out together.
Hmm. Yeah. And what about the people that like to sell on social media in somebody else's group that they've set up as how do you feel about that? Do you feel like there's a way that you can share but not sell? Because it sounds like, that there might be some women out there who kind of feel weird being salesy. So what's the right way to kind of go about that if you want to share what you do online
There's lots of
respectfully?
You're right. There's lots of ways to do it. And I'm always very much mindful of other people's communities. So in some communities, they actually have promo days. So it's a free promo day where you can actually show up and you can sell to that group. So do it then. The other way that is, it's still 100% respectful. And that's, my number one goal is, and even an intro post. An intro post, but you don't have to include links. It doesn't have to be salesy. It's just like, hey, I'm here. This is who I am and what I do, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you all. It is a promotion, but actually the intent is just to connect with people. And I
Yeah.
always say in all of the groups is give more that you can take. So don't just go in there to sell. Don't just go in there to get clients. Is actually connect with the community. Maybe if somebody's asking for advice and you have some knowledge, you can give them advice on the post. You don't always have to be like, book in a sales call with me and I'll tell you everything you need to know. It's been like,
Yeah.
actually, have you thought of this? Or have you thought of this? Maybe try this. And over time, that will compound and people will just see that and they will start knowing who you are. So even just giving value and advice to somebody, which is coming from heart, somebody else might see that and be like, actually, they know what they're talking about. I'm going to reach out and have a conversation with him that then can be a sales conversation. So always give
Yes.
more that you can take and lead with heart in those groups all the time.
That's great advice. And, it's like just being more authentically you in those digital spaces. And some people might feel uncomfortable doing that, but there's a way to do that. And like you just shared, just give more than you can get. So, Sasha, is there anything else that you want to share with the listeners and viewers before we let you go?
I think we've covered a lot of ground today. It's been a really great conversation. So thank you.
Yes. So, how can people find more about your work and ways to get to know you a little bit more?
Yeah, they can jump over to the website on www.sashaeburne.com. I love connecting with listeners or just having conversations. So jump over to Instagram, ___, send me a voice note. I want to connect with you. What's landed for you? I'm always open just to having conversations. So I'd love to hear.
Yeah, that would be great. And I'll make sure all of that is in the show notes. You can check and get that information and find ways to get together with Sasha and let her know what landed for you. That's a great question too, because hopefully something resonated with you in this conversation. Several things did for me as well. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That's it for today's show of the Go Slow to Go Fast Lifestyle Podcast. What I loved about this conversation with Sasha today is that she reminds us that success isn't just about systems, it's about alignment. Sasha shows us that when you combine structure with a mindset, strategy with breath, and ambition with heart, you create a life that's not only successful, but sustainable. If this episode landed somewhere between I have to listen to this again or I want to share it with somebody because it really hit home, then I hope that you do pass it on, that you share it with those who need it, and that you take your notes away as well and put them into action. As always, the light in me honors the light in you. And as you head into the rest of your week, let your light shine through. Go slow to go fast, and thanks for listening.